Presidential race, Marcos's running mate, presidential daughter Sara Duterte, is still at the top with 56%. That is 3 percentage point increase from the February survey. Senate President Tito Soto is far behind with 20% of likely voters, followed by Senator Kiko Pangilinan with 15%. About 6% of survey respondents prefer other vice presidential bets, while the rest are undecided, not voting for anyone for the post, or refusing to identify their choice. The face-to-face survey was conducted among 2,400 respondents from March 17 to the 21st, when the candidates joined a number of debates, forums, and sat down for interviews. The survey has a 2% margin of error at 95% confidence level. Well, the Marcos campaign welcomes the latest Pulsacious survey. In a statement, Marcos spokesperson Vic Rodriguez says they acknowledge the overwhelming support, but still calls on supporters, volunteers, and campaigners to, quote, refrain from complacency and remain focused in achieving their target of 70% presidential preference mark. Robredo's team also happy about the results, saying what we're seeing now is, quote, the turning of the tide. Spokesperson Barry Gutierrez adds the improvement in Robredo's numbers establishes that she has the momentum, which they expect to further intensify until May 9. Senator Manny Pacquiao, meanwhile, determined to continue his campaign despite the survey showing him in fourth place. Pacquiao says his focus is on reaching more voters in classes D and E, which comprise the masses. He says he will not back out of the race despite calls for candidates to unite to stand a chance against survey frontrunner Bongbong Marcos.
Hindi lamang sa pag-iikot natin kundi yung ipinaparating din natin sa pamagitan ng social media sa abot natin mga kaya na ang laban ni Manny Pacquiao hindi ito laban ng laban sa sarili ko kundi laban ng sambayan ng Pilipino, yung mga nahihirapan sa buhay. Sinasabi ko naman na tuloy yung laban ko. Sa mahigit siguro 25 taon sa pagbuboksing ko, hindi naman ako naduwag, hindi naman ako nangayaw sa laban.
The Lacson-Soto tandem also unfazed by the survey results. Lacson says surveys are no longer believable since they do not reflect the experience on the ground. He explains the reception of people in areas where they go to are warm and spontaneous. Soto, who still ranks second in the vice presidential race, echoes Lacson's stance. Soto adds surveys only condition the minds of voters.
Sa bahay lang at nanonood din. Kami mismo nagpupunta. And I think, hindi lang ako pwede magsabi niyan, na even in Bohol, when we entered the Capitol building, hindi namin na-expect na ganun ka-warm. Hindi naman to choreograph. Hindi naman ito yung ibig sabihin na may kumpas sa Capitol building itself. And that's Bohol, ha? Walang local officials na nagkikere sa amin. Pero very spontaneous yung reception na nakita namin doon. And also in other areas.
We have the support of the people on the ground. I don't know what figures they are talking about.
Well, despite this, the duo says they will continue their strategy of engaging voters through town hall meetings. The so-called Isko Moreno volunteer groups wants candidates to unite against Bongbong Marcos. In an interview on Politics as Usual, I Am Pilipinas lead convener Tim Orbo said it is not yet too late for candidates to join forces to keep the Marcoses out of Malacanang. For a political analyst, candidates will have to set aside personal political interests.
BBM's lead is unprecedented, but he is not unbeatable. No? There's a narrow pathway for victory for those challenging him in the end, and that's 43% of his numbers are still soft votes.
Not against BBM or Sara, but since we're here and we know tayo na nakita natin what has happened in the past, why return to the past when we can move to the future?
Just last week, I Am Pilipinas' Cebu chapter shifted support from Moreno to Vice President Robredo, but Moreno's campaign manager Lito Banayo points out it may be too late now for unity talks.
I've been through so many efforts at coalition building, but there was so much treachery in these coalition talks. No, may usapan pero hindi naman tinutupad. No.
Catch the replay of Politics as Usual, where I also speak to congressional candidate Richard Gomez for later. That's on Saturday, 11 a.m. and Sunday at 10 p.m. only here on CNN Philippines. Officials deny a shortage in supply is pushing prices of food up. Now, this is happening at a time when motorists are spending more for fuel. Rex Remito visits public markets to give us a check on food prices.
Jake Palomero is buying some pork chop for his Tapsilogan Carinderia in Quezon City. His business has been at the mercy of fast-changing pork prices recently. Prices are higher by 10 pesos per kilo at Nepa Q-Mart this week than last week. He's now pondering if he should also jack up the price of his Tapsilog meal.
Sinasabi naman namin, tumaas ngayon. Pag mababa din naman talaga ang presyo namin. Pag tumaas talaga ng 40 pesos, nag-a-up kami ng 5 pesos din.
Pork retailer Tony Gotos says the unsteady supply of pork may be causing the unstable prices. Frozen kasim at 240 pesos per kilo, frozen pork chop at 210, and frozen liempo at 290. Fresh meat is more expensive. The reason why Gotos, unlike before, has decided to sell frozen meat.
Mas gusto nila ng sariwa. Ngayon sa mahal ng bilihin, gusto mo pa bang bumili ng sariwa? Syempre kung pwede na yung frozen, edi sa frozen ka na.
In the case of beef, one seller says prices are also higher due to recent increases in gasoline prices, making the transport of cuts from the slaughterhouse to the wet market more expensive. From 290 in December last year, a kilo of beef now ranges from 300 to 320 pesos per kilo. And there is no shortage of customers.
Siyempre tumatawad kasi mahirap yung buhay.
Despite what's happening on the ground, Finance Secretary Sonny Dominguez denies there's a shortage of commodities. He says it's the anticipation of shortages that are driving up prices. Inflation, or the rate in rise of prices of goods, just jumped from 3 to 4% for March. Government statisticians are blaming the higher oil prices to the Ukraine-Russia war.
The management of the supply is well within our mandate and well within our capability of doing it.
The price of chicken, meanwhile, went down by 10 pesos from last week. But sales are also down, and retailer Maricel De Vera is clueless as to why, although there are bird flu outbreaks in some areas in the country.
Hirap pa rin, hindi pa masyadong bumabalik yung dati.
Fish prices are more stable, but sellers are also expecting these to go up during the Holy Week. For vegetables, the prices of carrots, ampalaya, and cucumbers are up, while that of cabbage, onions, and sayote are down. Rex Remitio, CNN Philippines.
Up ahead, the fuel subsidy rollout will soon be back on track as COMELEC exempts the program from the election spending ban. And some senators tumbling down Health Secretary Francisco Duque's push for legislation that would make COVID-19 vaccination mandatory. Details next.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. Good news for PUV drivers. The distribution of fuel subsidy can resume soon, even amid the election ban on public spending. Amor Santos joins us live. Amor?
Pia, the COMELEC Unbank grants the petition of the LTFRB to continue with the fuel subsidy program despite the ban on disbursement of public funds during the election period. COMELEC Commissioner George Garcia says the transport regulator only has to wait for the poll body's formal resolution. He says it may be released tomorrow or Friday at the latest and will contain strict conditions the LTFRB has to comply with.
Kahit paano, this is now a notice to the LTFRB and to the different departments that you can now prepare the plan on how to properly implement the fuel subsidy. Huwag na po kayong mag-alala, lalo na po yung mga drivers natin, mga farmers, lalo na rin po mga tricycle drivers natin. Approve na po yan.
The COMELEC wants details on the distribution of the fuel subsidy, including the list of beneficiaries. More than half of the targeted beneficiaries were left waiting after the LTFRB suspended payouts last March 25. Over 100,000 jeepney and bus drivers have received 6,500 pesos in their Pantawid Pasada cards, while delivery service riders will get 4,550 pesos. Still, no list of tricycle drivers or the amount they will get. Back to you.
Amor, any updates on the elections from COMEX and Bank?
Pia, COMELEC Commissioner Marlon Casquejo also announces that the ANBank has suspended the overseas absentee voting in Shanghai due to its COVID-19 lockdown. There are 1,600 registered voters there, and the poll body may also do the same in several other areas like Ukraine, and some 127 voters may be affected. The COMELEC also announced the creation of a task force contra fake news to go after individuals spreading disinformation. And while the COMELEC has finished the printing of 67 million ballots, more than 224,000 were found to be defective and will be subject to reprinting. Back to you.
Amor Santos there reporting live. President Duterte has ordered house-to-house vaccinations for COVID-19 as millions of doses are set to expire in 3 months' time. AC Nichols tells us more in this report.
An advisor to the president recently revealed that over 27 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines bought by the Philippines will expire in 3 months. President Duterte says the government is not to blame.
Ang bakuna nandyan. Para sa lahat ng Pilipino, in-order natin yan. Ngayon, kung may mga Pilipino, marami pa na hindi nakapagbakuna o ayaw makipagbakuna, hindi naman kasalanan ng gobyerno na magbili tayo commensurate to the number of Filipinos that would be vaccinated.
He called on those who have yet to be inoculated to get the vaccine. Otherwise, the expiring doses might go to waste. The president said these could be donated to other countries, but he's still hoping to convince more Filipinos to get vaccinated by bringing the shots straight to their homes.
Wala na tayong magawa. The most that we can do is a last-minute program. We embarked on a program that would i-deliver natin yung vaccine sa bahay-bahay.
Health Chief Francisco Duque has assured the president the vaccines will not go to waste. He said the country's vaccine wastage is just over 1%, far below the 10% indicative wastage rate used by the World Health Organization.
Yung po sinasabi nilang 25 to 27 million na mag-expire by July, ang tawag po natin dyan yung theoretical expiration. Hindi pa po ito expired kasi July pa yan. Magagamit pa rin po natin yan.
The secretary said most of these doses were donated or bought by either the private sector or LGUs. At the same time, he recognized that authorities need to work harder to get more Filipinos inoculated against the coronavirus. Duque said national and local candidates can help by encouraging their supporters to get vaccinated.
Dahil sila naman mga influencers sa kanila pong mga komunidad, maganda ikampanya din nila yung bakuna, Mr. President, para talaga whole of nation and whole of government approach tayo.
According to government data, over 66 million have already been fully vaccinated. That's around 73% of the target population. But the coverage for booster shots remain low at 12.2 million. AC Nichols, CNN Philippines.
Duque also wants Congress to push for legislation that would make COVID-19 vaccination mandatory.
We would welcome, Mr. President, if the Senate or Congress will, if they can muster that will, political will, to make vaccination and booster mandatory, like in other countries, no? Pero alam ko po, this is going to be very controversial. Pero sana naman po ay intindihin nila na tayo po ay nagbumili ng mga bakuna. Tama po kayo, Mr. President, para maproteksyonan ang publiko, ang ating po mga kababayan. Eh, di naman po natin makontrol kung ayaw ng tao ang magpabakuna.
But Senator Coco Pimentel says making COVID-19 vaccination mandatory is unconstitutional because the vaccines are still in the experimental stage. Presidential candidate Senator Ping Lacson and his running mate, Senate President Tito Soto, also rejected Duque's call.
Dapat ang ginawa niya noon pa, at the start of the vaccination program, noon pa sila nag-house to house, noon pa sila nag-massive information campaign about the vaccine. Hindi yung ngayon, dahil mag-expire yung 27 million doses, ipapasa niya pa sa Congress. Parang exercise na political will.
Alam naman nilang 6 days na lang natitira sa amin. Magko-convert pa kami into the National Canvassing Board. Anong batasan ang pinagsasasabi nila? I think media mileage na lang ng DOH yan. Nag-pay saving dahil ang dami nilang sinabit mula nung March 2020 hanggang ngayon.
CNN Philippines has sought Duque's response to these remarks. Meanwhile, Filipino Catholics will be able to observe more religious traditions this Holy Week. One of the oldest churches in the country will be allowing other rituals for the first time in 2 years. But Caroline Bonkin reports adjustments are still in place for the new normal.
Since Friday, devotees were again allowed to get close to the image of the Black Nazarene. But instead of the traditional pahalik, they can only touch the image and only after sanitizing their hands. No wiping of any fabric as well to prevent coronavirus transmission.
Dahil nga parang hindi tayo maging spreader at hindi po hangarin ng gawain ng Semana Santa ang maging spreader ng virus.
Devotees don't mind the new protocols.
Okay lang sa amin. Pinayagan na kaming makapasok sa simbahan. Dati nung pandemic, dyan na kami sa labas.
Siguro naman safe. Sumusunod pa rin naman ako sa protocol.
Quiapo Church will also resume other religious rituals like the pabasa on Holy Monday to Wednesday.
Naka-face mask pa rin tayo at yung physical distancing pa. Inalis din naman ng IATF yung curfew, so kaya pwede tayong 24 hours na open.
Instead of the traditional procession, there will be a motorcade of the Black Nazarene's image on Good Friday, following the Traslacion route. No climbing or pulling of the carriage, no walking barefoot. Image replicas, which usually join the procession, will instead be paraded and blessed ahead this April 6th and 7th.
So, lahat po ng mga may imahen na nais po na madala dito sa simbahan, open po yun. Hindi pa tayo pwede basta-basta magsiksikan, kaya yung, lalo na yung mga imahen, wag nang dalhin sa Good Friday. Kaya naglaan tayo ng 2 araw, madala na nila dito yung imahen nila.
All these events will be streamed live. Priests and health officials discourage the practice of crucifixion, warning it can cause infection and blood loss.
We request, kung may iwasan naman po, maari naman po tayo, katulad ng sabi kong, sumamba sa ating Panginoon sa ibang paraan. Hindi po yung para mag-inflict pa ng harm sa ating mga sarili.
Jenny will be back in Quiapo for the Pabasa and Holy Week Mass.
Magsisindi ako ng kandila dyan para sa mga yumao namin sa namatay.
While Sharina plans to hear Mass and then stay home with her family on Holy Week.
Pandemic pa din naman, so
I think most of the people will be spending their time at the beach So kami, we just plan to stay at home.
The Catholic Church asked the faithful for a solemn celebration of the Holy Week. Caroline Bongkin, CNN Philippines.
A Catholic school that's been around for more than 100 years is closing its doors. The College of the Holy Spirit in Manila says it is shutting down because of financial constraints that were worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic. Stanley Gaheta has more.
Alumni Victoria and Cora pay a visit to their alma mater one last time. While at the Commerce Building, they viewed the stained glass art piece by national artist Fernando Amorsolo while reminiscing about happy memories.
We were having fun kasi wala masyadong classes. So mostly half day. But during the morning, talagang tight security, we cannot go out.
We're always hopeful and we believe that God has a better plan for everything.
It was equally sad for Winston when he learned he would have to leave his workplace of 20 years.
Nagulat kami nung nag-start na yung pandemic. Yun, may mga haka-haka. Una, haka-haka pa lang yun. So hanggang naging totoo pala.
The administration of President Rodrigo Duterte has approved the push for free college education in state colleges and universities. However, that also led to the closure of private universities and colleges like the College of the Holy Spirit. Some parents prefer to enroll their children in SUCs than in private schools. The COVID-19 lockdown saw sharp declines in the number of enrollees, making it difficult for the learning institution to survive serious financial losses.
They tried their best. In fact, we formed a management corporation to try to, save the school for part. But then, I guess the Holy Spirit had other plans.
Some of the Holy Spirit's notable alumni include award-winning journalist Sheila Coronel, peace negotiator Miriam Coronel Ferrer, former Security and Exchange Commissioner Teresita Herbosa, Eugenia Apostol of the Philippine Daily Inquirer, and investigative journalist Buma Cruz, to name a few. The school's last batch, comprising some 30 students, will attend the final graduation rites on April 20th.
Malungkot kasi parang wala ka nang babalikan in the future na parang gagraduate ka na nga pero wala kang mabibisita ng school.
According to alumni, the missionary of Sister Servants of the Holy Spirit intend to sell the school, but there's no prospective buyer yet. For now, the nuns will continue their mission to help poor communities outside the metro.
Sure might not be here, but the Spirit lives on. It lives on in every heart of every alumni that was raised here.
Stanley Gaete, CNN Philippines.
Still ahead on Newsnight, more Filipinos have made it to Forbes' billionaires list, but there's little change to rankings among the wealthiest Pinoys this year. And the Lakers trended after their devastating elimination from the NBA playoffs. This and more sports updates when we come back.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Welcome back. Forbes has named the world's billionaires this year, and real estate tycoon Manny Villar remains the richest Filipino on the list. The former Senate president is joined by 19 other Pinoys, among them ports tycoon Enrique Razon Jr. and Henry C. Jr. of SM Investments. Villar rose to 263rd from last year's 352nd with a current net worth of around 426 billion pesos. Lots of action in sports today. The Los Angeles Lakers are officially out of the NBA playoffs after a 121-110 loss to the Phoenix Suns, the same team that sent them packing last year. Star player LeBron James' ankle injury kept him on the bench throughout the game. This is the second time LeBron did not make it to the postseason since joining the Lakers in 2018. The LA squad has missed the playoffs 7 times within the last 9 years. And back here at home, the PBA Governors Cup Finals have begun. Game 1 between the Meralco Bulls and defending champs Barangay Ginebra is underway at the Smart Araneta Coliseum. Things are looking up for the Bulls in the first quarter, snatching the lead with 25-23. Another thrilling championship showdown, this time at the Mall of Asia Arena. It is Creamline versus Petrogas for the Premier Volleyball League's first Open Conference Finals match. So far, Creamline has the lead in set 1 at 20-15. Go to our social media platforms for updates on these games. Now, good news for Twitter users. You may soon get a chance to fix your tweets even after posting them. The social media platform has been working on an edit function since last year. It'll be tested in the coming months. Twitter's head of consumer products said they're, quote, approaching this feature with care so it cannot be used to alter the record of public conversation. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Iyo Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.